Welcome to Biz Alchemy, a podcast about creating a new business paradigm by women, for women. I'm your alchemical host, Jacquelyn, and I'm going to take you on an extraordinary adventure to create a business filled with ease, fun, spaciousness, and abundance. Hustle, be gone. Let's birth a new way. In this episode, I'm having a chat with Natalie Murray, the queen of the boundary queens. I really wanted to get Nat in for a chat because boundaries are one of the biggest challenges for female entrepreneurs, because often we are so programmed to overgive and to put everyone else before ourselves. And this can lead to exhaustion, it can lead to burnout, as Nat talks about, and it can lead to resentment towards our business. That is definitely not a part of the new business paradigm. Plus, Nat is just so entertaining to chat with. She will inspire you to firm up your boundaries, to take back your power, and to walk your talk in the way that you show up in your business. So, Nat, what was the turning point when you realized it was time to move away from the patriarchal business model and create a new paradigm for your business?
Well, to be honest, I think it was 7 months ago. I'd been working in business, as you know, for 4 or 5 years, and I knew I wanted to work in a different way, and I had exhausted myself over and over, wasn't happy. And then the turning point came, as you know, when my niece passed away. The reason for that is my niece was an online entrepreneur as well, and she was only 26. She was making all the same mistakes that I'd been making and that I saw so many women make. The pressure, the goal setting, I'm going to make $1 million by the time I'm 30, all of this kind of stuff. It was heartbreaking to watch her doing that. And I was like, I can't show her a different way because I haven't worked it out yet. Like, I haven't worked out what's that beautiful balance between the feminine and the masculine, you know? So I knew she was highly stressed, and then she just suddenly died. And it was like, boom, massive, huge, biggest shock of my life. And that's when I just decided, no, I'm going to find the way if it's the last bloody thing I do. For me and for Rachel and for all women in business. So it's deeply personal for me to have found my path, to find my way that honors the feminine in me and is full of joy and ease and flow.
Yeah. And that is a dramatic shift, because for most of us, we don't have something so strong, like such a strong message come to us. So to be in that process of grief, but also acknowledging and seeing what it was showing you and for your business.
Yeah, honestly, I was just like, if I don't get the lesson from this, I don't know what would have to happen to wake me the fuck up. I mean, honestly, it's one thing for us to say we want to live in a feminine way and want to do our business in a feminine way. It's a whole other story to actually live it and do it and embody it and set the boundaries and do all the things that we need to do to go, no, I'm not doing the old way. No matter how pressured I feel, no matter how many Facebook ads come through the feed to go, oh, are you doing this? And are you doing that? And are you on podcast? And, all the overwhelm. It takes a real commitment to stay centered to yourself and in your own lane and making your self-care the priority in your life. Because the way I looked at it, it's like after Rachel died, I'm like, what was really the friggin' point of all of that stress? What was the point? There is no point. And that's how I started seeing my business even more clearly. It's like, my definition of success is no longer money, clients, impact, all of that. It's like, how deliciously do I live my day? How much do I walk the talk? How much do I role model what I'm actually about? How much do I feel like my life is a beautiful playground rather than a drudgery and hard work, and I've got to make this business happen, and I've got to make people notice me and all of that. I was just like, oh. But mind you, before Rachel died, I'd burn out myself 3 times.
Wow.
3 times. I am a genius at this. Major burnouts, like I was out for the count for a year. So I know burnout and I know how low you can go. But Rachel just dying on the spot was like the final smack in the head. Stop this pattern. That you have to stop the pattern now, not just for you, but for every woman around you and every woman coming after you. Don't just talk about it, do it.
Yeah. So this time last year, what did your business look like?
I think I was still in the, what do I have to do to make this happen? I'm going to set this goal. I better set a goal, and I've got to go out there and I've got to hustle. There's all these gotters, I've got to go on Facebook more often. I've got to share in Facebook groups. It was just draining as anything. And I feel like I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself to just go, you know what? If I just let go and if I just followed my own intuition about what my higher power is telling me that I'm all about, what if I just did that? But I couldn't quite let go because I think I just got so caught up in the noise online and watching other people and comparison and all of that. I was just like, I'm lost. That's how I felt most of the time, lost. So even though I think people would look at me and go, oh, she's successful, she's putting herself out there, I didn't feel successful. And that didn't make me happy because I feel like success is my insides match my outsides, and my insides did not match my outsides at all. So I think I had that little bit of feeling like a bit of a fake, feeling like a bit of a fraud, and thinking, God, if people knew how hard I was working behind the scenes just to keep this together. I think I was a bit resentful of the whole thing back then.
And your work then was about women and boundaries, as it is now, hasn't it? There hasn't been a shift in your work, or has there been?
I think now as you know, I'm super, super focused now. I had only just started to talk about boundaries, maybe for about a year or so. My message has gone over the 5 years. It's gone from broadly feminine empowerment down to, codependence recovery, down to helping women save their marriages, down to women and dating, all of these things, and relationships in general. But I knew I had a particular passion for boundaries, and I was just testing out the waters. I was like, oh, let's just do this little course around boundaries and see what that feels like, see if people are interested in that, see what the outcomes are for that. I was still playing around. And I wasn't taking myself seriously. I think that's the difference between a year ago and now. I wasn't taking myself seriously enough to go, actually, Nat, you've got something of real value to offer here in your own way. Not in anybody else's way, but in your own way. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at now. So when I finally nailed my niche right down to high achieving spiritual female leaders, helping them to master their boundaries so they can live their truth and walk their talk and actually create successful personal and professional relationships. I'm like, that's it. That was my life. That was my journey. And I saw it over and over and over, and the people coming to them, I'm sort of like, how has it been so challenging to articulate this? But fundamentally, bottom line, I wasn't owning and embodying my own worth around that, and the worth of my message and the worth of my work.
And have your boundaries changed as you've made this shift in the way you're showing up in your business?
Oh, that's so funny, because I was just saying to somebody this morning, I'm like, holy crap, I used to be pretty good at boundaries, better than the average person. But now I'm claiming Queen of the Boundary Queen. My God, things have taken it to the next level.
I love that title.
I know. I'm just calling myself next level Nat, right? So say, for example, a friend of mine, I know that I'm not good at nighttime, and I've done a few little nighttime things, and I've gone, Nat, you feel sick in the belly, you're not a nighttime person, you're in bed by 8:30, you don't need any screen time after 8, all of those things. I know this. And just this morning, a friend reached out and said, oh, could you please come and do a presentation on my meetup group? It starts at 7 o'clock and goes through till 9. And instantly I felt sick. And I thought about it for a minute and I messaged her back and I said, I'm so sorry, I don't work at night. Now, that would not have been me a year ago. I would have been like, well, I don't want to work at night, but maybe this is a great opportunity. And my head would get in and the fears and the what if I don't take it up and all of that. And now I'm like, I'm first. I'm first above everything. I'm first above my business. I'm first above my clients. I'm first above money, everything. And look, it's taken me 50 years to get here. And I just crack up laughing because I'm like, I am the last person that I imagine that God would ask to be boundary queen, you know, after burning myself out 3 times and all of this. And I'm like, what do they say? You're here to teach what you're most need to learn. So yeah, I'm so even more aware of it 10 times more. And giving myself permission to go, well, this is it. This is my boundary. This is how it goes. This is how it rolls for me. And trusting that I will still succeed, even if it seems like my boundaries are very rigid, you know, and there's not a lot of flexibility there. There isn't flexibility around certain things, aka my self-care, my sleep. No, I'm sorry. That's pretty black and white. Other things, yeah, could be have a bit of shade of grey every now and then. But sleep, nah, that's the number one thing I need in my life.
Yep. And that my experience of women in the online space or female entrepreneurs is that when they go into business, it's like all their boundary shit shows up, doesn't it? It's like stuff that they may not have been aware of before. It's like, you know, as we know, business is the biggest self-development journey, but particularly around boundaries, like that's where it really shows up.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I just look back on all of the decisions I've made over time about, you know, taking on clients that my gut said, don't do that, Nat, you know, giving so much to somebody who'd hardly paid me anything, you know, all of those things. And I just go, oh my God. But I just feel like there's such a deep collective consciousness in women about the more you give, the more you'll be loved. Keep on giving, keep on giving. That has been my biggest addiction in my life, is worshipping at the altar of external validation. And I've been in therapy for freaking years to get over my codependency addictions. And that's the biggest addiction. So many boundaries have to be in place to validate myself first above everybody else.
It's about trying to make everyone happy, isn't it?
I just purely think it's conditioning. Not only are we wired to be the givers, the connectors, but there's millions of years of conditioning that have told women up until now, your needs come last, everybody else's needs come first. And that's just the way it goes. I actually was just talking to a lady this morning who said her motto in her family was, you must take care of other people no matter what.
Wow.
That was her family motto. And now she's burnt out. She's burnt out and she's like, I don't understand it. And I said, have you ever thought about flipping that around and saying, I must take care of myself no matter what? And I purely think it's conditioning. It's like so deep in our psyche. And then it's, do you know what? I think a lot of women find it very hard to say, I'm going to do something different, because there's guilt about, well, who am I to have the right to have a nicer life than my mum did, or her mum did, or her mum did? All the women that came before us who struggled and suffered and didn't have a voice and were martyrs and all of that stuff, you know, it takes a bit of guts to say, well, I'm choosing not to do that. It's like you're betraying the feminine code almost. That's the way I see it. It's like, well, who are you to have a nice little life where you're putting yourself first? Who do you think you are? And I know women who've said their mothers or their grandmothers or the grandmothers before them have been jealous of the freedoms that we have as women now in this generation. And then that's made them feel like, oh, okay, I'm just going to stay in my little box where I'm giving to everyone and I'm not happy because I don't want to upset the system, societal system, family system. You don't want your brothers and sisters to think, oh, she's a selfish cow. After all these years, she's given to us and now she's not. What the hell? You know, you put yourself first, there's a ripple effect. And it takes a lot of courage to reteach people how to treat you. That you're basically deciding, I'm going to forge my own path. And that's scary.
Yeah. And do you find that some of those women that come to you just do not have that courage? They're not ready yet?
Until I was very clearly niched, I would attract a lot of women who were wanting the change, dreaming about the change, hoping for the change. I just imagine one day that I can speak up for myself and all of that, but they weren't yet ready to cross the line to say, I no longer care what anybody else thinks because my health is shot, my sanity's out the window, my relationships are up the shit. I no longer care what anybody else thinks, even though I do care. I'm still going to act anyway, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to find my way. So now that I've gotten really niched and I really clearly see where I am on the spectrum of a personal development journey, I now only attract those women who want that and are prepared to work hard. And now I have an application process even to come into my Boundary Queen course. That's the great big boundary I put in. I'm sorry, you're going to have to apply, because I am no longer taking on board people who are not prepared to do the work. And that's just a clear, and on my invitation page, it's very clear. This is for you if, boom, boom, boom. It's not for you if, boom, boom, boom. And before I would be, but I want everybody to, have this information. I want everybody to, I want to help everybody. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And now it's like, I can't help people who aren't ready for the help and are not asking for the help. And I think one of the other really unconscious conditioned behavior that we have as women, primarily women who are givers, like the coaches, the counselors, the therapists, all of that, is this unspoken sense of responsibility for other people. Somehow I say somebody's struggling, but I know the answer, or I've got this information, or I really should let them in to do my course, and somehow it's my fault or my responsibility. I've got to fix what I see in front of me. And to be honest, if I'm being really honest now that I say this, I've recognized over the last 3 or 4 months that I was unconsciously attracting people into my life who would say, oh yeah, I really want to work on myself, but then they'd never show up. They'd never follow through. They'd never do what they say they're going to do. And I recognized there was still a part of me that was searching for people who needed fixing, as if it was still my job. And I saw that part of me and I went, you know what? Thanks for all the hard work you've done all these years. But it's not your job. It's actually none of your business. If someone is struggling and they're not ready, it's none of your business. Just be open and available for those who are ready. And that's a really big shift that I've made. And I've just let go of so many women who were on the outer, watching me from the outside. Oh, one day I'll work with you. Oh, one day I'll work with you. One day I'll work with you. I just don't give them any energy anymore. God, I'm sounding like a selfish right now, right? But it's like, I just don't, not that I don't care, but that's not where my energy goes. My energy and attention is on those who are ready, right there in front of me, ready to do the work, not on everybody else. And everybody else can follow me on friggin' social media if they want to and listen to what I have to say. But that's not where I'm putting my focus.
So what other changes are there that you've implemented in your business in the last few months that maybe to do with boundaries and your boundaries, but just that have helped you move more into this space of ease and flow in your business?
I've put a little bit more routine, but with flexibility there. So now I've got in my week-long, Monday to Friday, I actually work Monday to Saturday, I have Wednesdays off. I have more of a general sense of, on Monday, I'm doing marketing. On Tuesday, I'm doing projects. I talk to people on Thursdays and Fridays, and I do my Boundary Queen calls on Saturdays, in general, in my mind, and I'm going to stick to that. So there's no more, people can just book in anytime kind of thing. I'd been moving towards that blocks of focus for a while. But for me, where I'm at right now is massive, massive boundaries around social media and my phone. So I had this insight the other night. I thought, you know what? I used to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. I would leave work at 5 o'clock and I wouldn't go back to work till Monday morning at 9 o'clock. That's 64 hours of time away from work. So I am now going to put 64 hours of time into my week away from my phone and all social media. So for me, what that looks like is turning my phone off on a Tuesday afternoon and not turning on again till Thursday morning, and turning my phone off on Saturday afternoon and not turning it on again till Monday morning. That's huge for me. And my phone has a lock on it now. It turns itself off at 6 o'clock at night. It doesn't turn itself on again till 9 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
I can override it, but it's interesting to know that there's those boundaries there. Because part of me getting really unwell and getting pneumonia, a very life-threatening pneumonia at the end of 2019, was I recognized chronic stress from being on social media and that addiction to the external validation, the likes, the comments, what's happening now, am I missing out on anything, all of that. I really recognized my addiction to social media. It was a serious one. If I didn't have an online business, I would never, ever be on social media at all. So it's finding that balance. How do I show up online and take extreme, exquisite self-care at the same time? So I've put those boundaries in place, and now it's the boundaries around Facebook notifications and stuff like that come up all day long. So now it's down to boundaries each day. No, Nat, only go on Facebook for half an hour in the morning at this time, then do not look at it, until the afternoon. So that's my plan. It's very challenging though. Like, well, just pop into Facebook. I'll pop in to check my email, blah, 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 blah. And it's so draining to me energetically.
Yes, which actually brings me to my next question, which is, why is it so hard to stick to boundaries? Like, especially for women, why do women find it so hard?
There's two things for me. I think the first one is most women do not feel comfortable in their own power, their real power, their real authority, their own authority to live their own life their way. So if you try to set a boundary to kind of teach other people how to treat you, you have to be really comfortable in your own decision and your own choices and your own right to decide how you want to live your life. And most women have not embraced that power. It's kind of like it's out there. It's like, it's a nice thing to have out there, but it hasn't fully landed in their body. It's like, actually, it's okay for you to be powerful. It's okay for you to be powerful. I remember this funny story when I first started in business. I had a business coach, and we had to stand up on stage and present to everybody else in the group. And there was probably like 70 women in the room. This is 5 years ago. And I got up and did this presentation about who knows what. And this woman came up to me afterwards and she said, wow, that was powerful. I went, oh, okay, thanks. And she goes, I recommend that you tone that down a bit so you don't intimidate the other women in the room. And you know what I went, oh yeah, okay. And I shrunk back down again, right? So that's the second part of it. They're not comfortable being in their full power around other women either. Are you hearing me here?
Oh, yeah.
So if there's the issue of power, the second issue is I just think people are a bit confused about really what it all means. What do boundaries really mean? What do they look like? How do you do it? What do you say? What can you actually put boundaries around? I mean, let's face it, most of us never learnt this stuff at school or learnt it clearly anywhere. So in the work that I do now, the very first week is Boundaries 101. This is what it actually looks like before we even go anywhere else. And I think that clarity is missing. So the power and the clarity. You start setting boundaries in your life, you are swimming against the tide of general society, where many women are still just going with the flow, what everybody else wants, don't want to rock the boat, don't want to be, seen as a bitch, don't want anyone to think I'm not caring. That's such a deeply ingrained, conditioned need. And for me, I can only speak for myself. My deepest need was my need to be liked, and I will do whatever I'm trained to do as a woman to make that happen. So it looked like I was caring about everybody else, but I was actually just trying to meet my own need.
I'm sure this will speak to so many people listening. I just know from looking at, different women's energy bodies, how much that this is a part of their energy. So if someone's listening and going, oh my God, I have to know more, where can they find out more about your work, Nat?
Well, they could just go to my website, which is nataliemurray.com. And I do have a free video masterclass just sitting on my website that anyone can look at. And it's called 5 reasons why it's hard to stick to your boundaries and tips to help you get better at it. So they could just go to my website under free. They can go to that. And if they want to from there, then they can take their own little mini boundary audit or checklist, for want of a better word. They can click in and they can get this checklist and they can go, okay, where am I at with my boundaries now? Just as a kind of awareness, a wake-up call. But I tell you, the hardest part of the work that women do when they come to me is admitting their own dark side around this. Admitting, maybe I'm not as nice and sweet as angelic as I think I am. Maybe a lot of my behavior has been quite manipulative to get what I need and to hold on to the image that I want other people to think of me. That I'm the nicest person in the world, So there's a lot of ego involved, a lot of shadows, looking at those shadows of yourself. And look, this stuff ain't for sissies.
That manipulative behavior, that's learned because we haven't learned how to do boundaries.
Exactly. We haven't learned we had the right to have boundaries for starters. We didn't see it role modeled by our own mothers or women in our family. And as I said, the fear is, who are you to put yourself first? Get back in your box. We've all had to be martyrs our whole life, so you have to too.
Wow.
So it takes a lot of courage. And when I say that's why it's not for sissies, it's also not for fairies, because fairies want a magical solution. Give me an easy solution. There's nothing easy about this. To me, it's a process of perpetual realignment to your power.
Mm.
It's a perpetual come back, come back, come back, come back, come back, come back. And that's a mindfulness practice, really, over time. And of course, the more you do it, the better you get. Boundaries are a muscle. You'll get stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger.
Yes, so I imagine also removing the self-judgment around that.
Oh, definitely. And that's why some of the women who do my course then come and do the deeper work around worthiness and fears and insecurities and guilt. Incredible ancestral guilt about saying no, and who are you to want your own life and all of that. It's really deep stuff that feels so real, but it's like deep in the cells of your being.
So Nat, would you just share just one little gem, one takeaway for everyone?
This is what I want to share. You can start today to get stronger in your boundaries by keeping your focus on what I call your womb space, which is that space deep inside your belly, that center point inside your belly. If you put one hand below your belly button and like right inside, if you imagine that there's a light in there and it's filling your entire pelvis front to back, all the way down to the bottom with a beautiful warm light. And you imagine that all of the muscles in your vagina and your butt and everything are just relaxing. The more you practice that, the more you'll notice how uptight you are. For starters, like you're holding on. But the more you can just keep your focus on your belly, the stronger you're going to be and more naturally confident you're going to be. And that's your place of wisdom as well. And that's where the right words are going to come, the knowing and the strength and the balance. Because as you know, most of us, as soon as we start thinking of a boundary, we flip out of our bodies into our heads and we start going, oh shit, what am I going to say? What's the right thing to say? I don't want to hurt their feelings. I'm sure they didn't mean it. Blah, 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 blah. Make sure you are focused and aware of your body at all times. That one thing will change your life.
I love that, Nat. I'm getting off this call and I'm going to start practicing straight away. Thank you so much, Nat. That's just been incredibly enlightening.
Thank you so much for asking me to talk about this. It's, as you said, it's a massive subject, a really, really freaking important subject for any woman who's going into business.
Thanks for listening to Biz Alchemy. I'm Jacquelyn Atkins. If you enjoyed this show, I'd love it if you subscribed, shared with your friends, and left a review. And if you'd like to continue the conversation, head to jacquelynatkins.com. Until next time, enjoy creating alchemy in your biz.